thinking back, like if I would have implemented what I do now from the beginning, I would have gained so much more clarity and inner power and more direction towards my goals from the beginning of my journey.
Hi friends, welcome to Business Briefs, where you get bite-sized legal and business strategy and tips for your business. Today we have the amazing and a mastermind friend of mine, Kelly Femrite. She is an intuitive empowerment spiritual coach and a hypnotherapist. And I was just telling her that this is the first time I've had someone of her caliber, but then also her business expertise on Business Briefs. So I'm really excited to learn more about what is hypnotherapy, why we need it, and why it's not the whole, like how we say the hoo-hoos and the ha-has and the jujus, like all that stuff, like why, what makes it legitimate. And I know it is. So I'm just, I'm going to ask you questions that might sound a little silly, but at the end of the day, I want people to learn more about this space because this is something that's not maybe as prevalent. But welcome to Business Briefs, Kelly. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me on here. I'm really super excited to have this chat. And I always love sharing these things in spaces where they're not normally shared, because I think that's how we all learn from each other, right? We all grow and learn together.
Yeah, absolutely. So in a nutshell, tell me, what is hypnotherapy?
Sure. So I refer to myself as an intuitive empowerment coach, and I use the modalities of coaching, hypnotherapy, and I also added on Reiki energy healing in the last couple of months. So hypnotherapy as a modality it's a form of alternative therapy, I guess you would refer to it as, that uses neurolinguistic programming as the basis. So as we are growing up, as we are being influenced by different sort of people and situations and different experiences around us, we might pick up and carry with us some of those that carry with us and are imprinted in us that we don't even realize are kind of like programs running in the background of our everyday life. Mm-hmm. So say we have, this is a very tangible example, like say you're like, I don't know why I'm so stuck. Like I cannot make progress on this one specific goal in my business. I'm just completely stuck for months on end. I can't figure out, I'm working on it, but it's not moving. I don't know what's happening. There might be something in the subconscious brain that is holding on to something encoded in your brain that's not allowing you to break through to that goal. And so what hypnotherapy does, it's a customized neurolinguistic script that I would create for each individual client based on whatever it is they are wanting to work on, what goals they have. There's even scripts around quitting smoking, if that's something someone wanted to do. There's scripts around performance enhancement. So if you are a speaker who speaks in front of large audiences, there's a hypnotherapy script that you can put together and give it to that speaker before they speak, and it clears them of anxiety of showing up to speak in front of that large audience. So that's kind of a little bit of the science behind it. How it works is the script that you're writing, as you are reading it to the person, they're in a state of consciousness, sort of like the state right before you fall asleep at night. Mm-hmm. So they're very relaxed. It's like a meditative state, and they're just taking in all the suggestions you're giving them, and it's working on that subconscious level. So I always say it takes probably at least 6 sessions to get something really nailed down, depending on how programmed in it was or how big of a thing they want to change. Mm-hmm. But after those sessions, clients report feeling more powerful, more able to move in that direction of what they want to do, focus on their goals, less anxiety, better sleeping, just all sorts of different results. So
okay, that is definitely a space that I have not explored personally. but definitely a space that provides a lot of curiosity as well. And so, why did you even get into this? Like, what made you become an intuitive, empowerment coach? Like, what
Yeah.
is that? And how did you find this space?
Yeah, for sure. So when I first started out online, I actually was a virtual assistant and I was helping like all different types of women entrepreneurs with like any task they needed, right? So I ended up getting women clients who were all in the personal development, spiritual, and intuitive space. So that's who kind of flocked to me, and that's the clients that I mostly help. So as I was helping them, I was kind of realizing like, what they're doing and how they're helping, truly like helping women and helping people to get through these different personal development things, and how they are helping people to shift and to get big results and all of these things. I kind of looked at that and I said, this is more of what I'm passionate about over like the technical details of helping them with the day-to-day tasks. So it was like maybe a year into my VA journey that I decided to switch directions. And with the help of Lonnie, our wonderful coach, she has been there with me like the whole journey, but really sort of kind of admitting to myself that's what I truly was passionate about. And at the same time, when I still worked in corporate, I had all these side kind of committees and projects that I was helping with women's career advancement and women empowerment and moms in the workplace. Like after moms went back to work and getting them the support they needed and the help they needed and mental health help they needed as well. So all of those came back into my mind. Like those were what I was passionate about in my corporate career over like the technical day-to-day tasks, right? So then I just started thinking like, okay, this is the direction. This is how I want to go. In addition to Lonnie, I also hired a spiritual coach to kind of just get me on that path of like opening myself up to what I really wanted to do and just different methods I could use. And she was the one that really introduced me to like hypnotherapy and Reiki and energy healing and setting up like tapping more into your intuition on a daily basis to kind of guide your goals and guide your life and guide your days.
Wow. So when someone comes to you and they're wanting to learn more about this and they're on the fence of, is this really going to work? And also like, how is this not just the hoo-hoo and the ha-ha? Like, how do you explain to them that this is real? There's some science backing this and this is real stuff. What are the words that you use to explain that better?
Well, I think honestly, it all comes down to what is the client's goals, right? So if I can explain at a high level to them, say their goal, and a lot of moms are, they want to make an impact. They want to make changes in the world for their kids. That's where I'm at too. I want a better tomorrow for my daughter, right? Like I want the earth to be good in 30 years, right? I want all those things like environmental. And so if I can kind of explain it at a high level, like we're all working on these goals. We have these big passions and these big purposes in our lives. And no matter what really modality you use, no matter what method you use, at the end of the day, we really want that better world for our kids. And we want that better tomorrow for our kids. So I feel like often I don't really have to explain in too much detail the scientific backing behind it, although there is with hypnotherapy. There's definitely that like scientific linguistic aspect, but I feel that kind of goes over some people's heads. So if you explain it more in terms of, these modalities are going to help you sort of like reprogram, kick out anything like energetically, clear anything energetically, in your body that you might be holding on to from the past, sort of like similar to a therapist, a psychotherapist, although I am not a licensed psychotherapist, but these methods are kind of an alternative to that sort of traditional therapy where you're actually clearing things out so you can step more fully into, your path and purpose and what you're wanting to build, like in your life, for your kids, for your family, and all of those things. And typically, with the type of audience that follows me, I think they get it on some level too.
Yeah.
So, but to sort of convert the people that are in the middle, it's helpful to talk about that overall purpose and mission.
Yeah. Okay. And walk me through what the process looks like. Say someone's come to you and now you're going to go through the process with them of the hypnotherapy. What does that look like? And how are you helping them walk through or break down that barrier or break down that block?
Yeah, for sure. So, someone that typically comes to me will be struggling in some way. They come with a struggle, whether that is maybe anxiety or maybe, they feel like they have a lack of motivation around their goals. Let's go with that example. So if someone came to me and said, I feel like I have a lack of motivation, I have these big goals, but I just can't seem to take action on them. So the first step would be to kind of have that initial sort of interview with them, that initial consult, just to really see like what it is truly that they are wanting to work on in that session. And so once I get all those details, then after that consult, I will sit down at some point and I will totally create a hypnotherapy script. So I write it all from scratch. I write the hypnotherapy script customized to exactly those things that they said they wanted to work on, that they either want more of in their life or they want less of. So whatever it is that they came to me with, I put that into the hypnotherapy script. And in hypnosis training, they give you specific like language to put at the endings and the beginnings of your scripts, but then you're kind of free to play around with the rest of it. So I just kind of intuitively write the script to how I feel like it's going to impact them the most. And then I will have that script ready for when we start the session. And I play peaceful, like meditative music in the background through Zoom. And then I will read that script to them in a very like slow, methodical, but in the hypnosis sort of way. And like, I know there's a lot of sort of uncertainty around, well, is hypnosis going to put me into a state where I'm doing things I don't want to do? And like all of those questions, no, it's not.
Yeah, like a trance or, because normally you hear, oh, it's hypnosis, right? Like they're doing something on you. So is there a difference between?
Yes. Yeah, there's definitely a difference. So you will see hypnosis portrayed in movies a lot as someone's like getting in a trance and like sitting there slumped over. That is not at all what hypnotherapy is.
Okay.
It's like it couldn't be further from what hypnotherapy is. Hypnotherapy is more, like I said, of a gentle, relaxing, almost think of it as someone is physically sort of giving you a meditation that you're just like so relaxed and like peaceful and almost in that state of like sleepiness. So you're hearing what they're saying and you're hearing the music, but you might kind of drift in and out and you might just you're taking everything in. But if you're in that state where it is working for you, then you're not consciously sort of like aware of everything else around you, sort of like when you are meditating, if people have experience with meditation.
Yeah. I'm so glad you actually made the differentiation there because the words were so similar that you would assume it to be hypnosis.
Yeah.
And so just kind of talking about the narrative that you write. So, you go through the process with them. Earlier, you'd mentioned that, you write out the narrative that they say to themselves, also say like a speaker. How do you do that on your own if you've not had training? Or do you teach your clients how to do that? I mean, my understanding was that you give something like, say, I'm about to go speak. You give something to say to myself right before I walk on that stage, right?
Oh, okay. I gotcha. So yeah, so in that case, it would be a client might book a few sessions like before that speaking engagement. So
Okay.
we would do the formal sessions, but then I would also, with every sort of multi-session package that I book, I offer a recorded mini hypnosis track.
Ah,
So like you can listen to it anytime you want to. So after the live session with me, then I will go ahead and take, everything. Like I'll get your feedback. I'll ask you how was that? How did it work out for you? Are you noticing differences? And once that happens, then I'll record that like mini track that you can take with you anywhere. So it's like an MP3, you can put on your phone and kind of listen to it anytime you need that boost.
okay. Now, hypnotherapy is, you're trying to take away the blocks and all that, and, things that are blocking you. First of all, how do we identify if they're blocks? What if we don't even know that there's a block? And then why is it important to remove them?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start with the how do you identify if there is a block? So there's a process that I take clients through in my regular coaching sessions. And it has the same basis as where hypnotherapy comes from, the neurolinguistic programming, which is the science behind like both of these modalities. But basically, if you don't even know, you're like, I'm just not motivated. I'm not doing these things, but I have no idea where this block comes from at all. Typically, what I have seen, it is typically somewhere in childhood or earlier on in your life that it came from. But there's a way to identify it by walking the client through a little session. And it's not a hypnosis session, but it is actually just a session. It's called timeline therapy.
Mhm.
And it takes them back to the point in the past. So you're kind of closing your eyes and you're just imagining like your life on a timeline. And you kind of travel back to that time where you feel. So it's all by intuition.
Yeah.
So I asked the client, like, what age do you feel like this happened to you? And the first number that comes to your head without thinking. So it's hard for a lot of people because we like to overthink and we're like, well, I don't know. It might have been this age. It might like, I don't, but I always tell people like, just try to stop that like chatter and just tune in, and whatever number you see, a number, you hear a number, you feel a number, whatever number that pops in your head. And then once we get that number, I'll walk them through more sort of meditative exercises to kind of take them back there. Inner child healing work is huge. So I incorporate that into my regular sessions as well. So there's like a lot of different pieces that go into it where you can sort of discover those places where this limiting belief or like this block may have come from somewhere in the past, because typically they always come from somewhere in the past.
Right.
And then we just hold on to them subconsciously and we don't realize that they're actually running. I refer to it as like they're running our programming behind the scenes, right? We're not consciously aware of that.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it, actually. They're running our programming behind the scenes, but we're not aware of it. What are, I know coming to you would be a real deep dive into all of that behind the scenes. And I think, it's really cool what you're doing also. But for somebody that's just like, okay, what are some things I can do at home to figure out my intuition? How do I tap into my intuition?
Yeah.
Do you have any tips on how to do that on your own?
Absolutely. I love talking about this topic, so thank you for asking. I always tell people if they're looking to start like a daily intuitive practice, all it takes is really 5 to 10 minutes. And I love doing it first thing in the morning because you are kind of fresh, you're without the influences of like social media or your phone. I always recommend people like stay off your social media for the first hour of the day.
Yeah.
Like really, it's hard sometimes, but I do recommend that. But waking up in the morning and whenever you can, because I know as parents, it's hard to find those pockets of time, where we can have that 5 to 10 minutes. But truly, it is just kind of being with yourself without the influences of all the outside stuff coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So what I like to do now that it's gotten warmer out, not so much in the winter because I'm in the Midwest and we get really cold here, but now that it's gotten warmer out, I will go outside with my coffee. I will stand barefoot in the grass, and it's called grounding and earthing. So you go out there and you put your feet in the grass, and even just closing your eyes down for a minute to 2 minutes and taking 3 really deep intentional breaths, like in and out, and just clearing out your body like that, like just really doing that intentional breathing, clearing it out. I find that is like my number one tip for everybody that doesn't have a lot of time to do practices like this.
Wow.
Because it takes a couple of minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. And what are some other ways to tap into the intuition?
So this one was really helpful to me when I first started, because you don't always know, like when you are trying to listen to your own intuition, it's hard to distinguish. Is this my intuition? Is this a worry? Is this someone else's opinion? So using Oracle card decks. Oracle card decks are really just drawing a card that your intuition wants to draw, right? So you pick up any type of deck, and there's so many different types of decks. Like they have all different themes. They have like Disney ones. They have everything you can imagine. So whatever your heart calls to. But drawing one of those daily and just reading the message on it and looking at the picture and just really trying to tune in and sort of determine, how this message relates to your life. What is it trying to tell you? What is the message trying to tell you about your life? Or you can ask specific questions. What do I need to know for today? Or I have this big business meeting coming up. What do I need to know about this big business meeting? So you can ask anything you want, but it's just a very guided way for people to actually tap into their intuition without worrying about, whether they're getting the right thing or whether they're getting the right message, because the messages are guiding.
Mm-hmm. Okay, nice. I just love, grounding and earthing and just kind of taking the deep breaths and clearing the system out in the beginning of the day. That's just so helpful and such great advice. Mm-hmm. And before we say bye, I wanted to ask you in one sentence, if you could share with us, why do we need an intuitive empowerment coach? Why do we need you in our life?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think so often, when we are newer entrepreneurs, we are given a lot of different things. There's a lot of things thrown at us, like you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Here's the way to make like $10,000 a month. Here's the way to make 100,000. Here, do this, no, do this. It's very overwhelming, right? I know it was for me when I was first starting out. I was just so overwhelmed and stuck in like shiny object syndrome, like 24/7. And thinking back, like if I would have implemented what I do now from the beginning, I would have gained so much more clarity and inner power and more direction towards my goals from the beginning of my journey. So I think that's why it's really important, because it's bringing all of that power back to us. It's bringing that power back to us instead of sort of relying on all the outside sources to tell us what to do. Yeah. So I love hiring coaches if they're aligned. I love all of that. And, I've had the honor of having some very, very amazing coaches in my journey. At the same time, though, there's a lot of messages out there that I look at or I read and I get kind of cringy, because the coaches will put messaging such as, this is your next aligned step to work with me. If you don't work with me, you're not going to make the money, or like, all those messages. So I look at those and I just go, this is why I do what I do, because I really want people to understand the only influence and power you need is like right within you.
Mm,
And all those other things are beautiful supplements if you find the right people to work with and to help you.
right.
But ultimately, those people that are helping you should be empowering you to share your own voice and to find your own self within, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree with you. So that's wonderful. And what is your anchor?
Ooh, I
What
love
holds
that.
you steady? Yeah.
So I think my anchor is definitely my family and especially my daughter Emma. So pretty much when I had her, and she's going to be 8 years old this year, she is an only child. When I had her, I feel like almost like it was a death and a rebirth for me, almost like I was reborn into a new person, at least went back to kind of looking at my life in a way where I wanted to be more fulfilled. So she brought me back to that, if I am a working mom, if I am doing these things, if I am working on projects, I need to feel fulfilled. I need to feel the ultimate, like I'm working towards a purpose, like I'm working towards my passions, not just that I'm working for a paycheck. And she totally brought that all back into my perspective, when she came around. And she in herself is such just like a beautiful, like intuitive soul herself. And so I think she influenced a lot of what I do in my business actually, because she's like so wise for being such a young kid.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. I love how you love her. Thank you so much for being with us today, Kelly. This was definitely eye-opening and also a lot of information. And, in the space that is still, I believe there are people that are doing what you're doing, but it's still newer in the streamlined space of business. And,
Definitely.
so thank you so much for sharing your business with us and sharing your story with us. I really appreciate it.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much again for having me on here.